Hey everybody and welcome back to Get On Board. This time with another episode of Responding Jamey. And this time Jamey talked on his yesterday's Sunday Sitdown talk about mini games inside other games. So what other games came to my mind when I saw Jamey's announcement that his Sunday Sitdown talks was going to be mini games inside of other games before I even watched the video? It was role player, and I was surprised that he didn't talk about that. But he also said there are different kind of definitions of what a mini game inside another game means. So maybe he doesn't quite consider this a mini game inside of the game, because in this game you're trying to puzzle your character sheet together. You're trying to create your own role player person, like in this sense is a halfling, but there are other characters inside of this game. And the main part of the game for me is drafting dice, getting the correct cards at the correct time in the game, paying them with money. There's a lot of competition going on about who takes which dice and which cards, but when you get the dice, and they have different colors, and there are a lot of them inside this large bag here, they kind of look like this. But the main part is drafting those dice. The minigame for me comes when you get those dice and try to puzzle them into your personal player board here. There are certain restrictions that you have, and you can put dice basically anywhere on your board, but you have certain abilities and certain requirements. So for example, you have a class. In this case, for example, it could be a scout, which will tell you how much value of dice, of pips, you have to have in every row to get a certain amount of points. Then you have like this backstory. So for example, in this case, it's resilient, and you have to have certain colors of dice in the right position to get different points. So you try to puzzle those dice in the perfect way, and you can only fill them up from the left to the right. What makes it interesting in addition to that is that when you place one die in a certain row, each row has a different ability, which happens when you place your die. So for example, if you place one of the dice in your strength row here, you can flip any die anywhere on your board to the opposite side. So this puzzle of when to take which die, maybe exchanging two dice or something like that effect, is really like, it's hard to describe as a mini game, but I think this is what makes the game for me. Although I would consider it a dice drafting game, this puzzle is what makes it for me. It's very fun, and it gets even more exciting when you add the first expansion, Monsters and Minions. Yes, Monsters and Minions into the mix, which brings you another color of dice and yeah, other stuff, different cards, different abilities, which is really cool. Jamey talked a lot about having those mini games, particularly inside of cooperative games instead of the competitive games. I have one example for another cooperative game, Chronicles of Crime, and the mini game, I think everyone who has played this knows what I mean, is when you get your phone out, you have an app, and you have like, I think it's 15 seconds to be at the crime scene in virtual reality. So you put up your virtual reality glasses, which your phone is attached to, or you can just look at your phone and scroll through it. And you can look at the crime scene, tell your teammates what you see at the crime scene. For example, oh, I see a picture of the deceased. I see like there are ice cubes lying on the ground. And your teammates try to take notes, find certain clue cards that add up to what you saw at the crime scene. Also, other people could get the phone after you are finished with investigating the crime scene. But it takes time off your clock, and you also have only a fixed amount of time to solve the case. So I like that very much. Like, it's not really like a mini game in and of itself, but the fact that you can investigate the crime scene and your teammates have to help you without seeing what you see is a big mini game, only a short one, like 15-20 seconds, but this is what I like, I think, almost the most about Chronicles of Crime. Aside of the crime investigation itself, like looking at the crime scene, that's very fun for me. Another game, and this was, by the way, the only cooperative game I came up with that I saw a mini game in. I'm sure there are a dozen of other examples I just didn't came up with. And another game is Istanbul. Istanbul is like you make a board. In each game you make a board out of those tiles, and every tile is a certain location that you can visit. For example, the fruit house or a small market. And some of them are really straightforward. You go there with your little meeple, and you just get something. You get certain resources, or you can exchange resources for diamonds, and you're on the hunt for those diamonds. I think who has the first player to get to 7 diamonds, I think, is the winner of the game. But on some of those locations, you can have like little mini games. And the more I thought about Istanbul, the more I thought like almost every location is a little mini game, some more, some less, in and of itself. So you have the auction house where you can auction off cards to other players. This is one of the locations from one of the expansions. But also in the base game, there are a lot of things. Like I think there's something like a casino where you can roll for resources. Then there are certain or like different kind of markets where you can buy something with different resources. Also, there are some locations where you get special abilities, which are very fun, which make you better throughout the game, give you more workers and stuff like that. Yeah, this is at the tea house where you can like announce a number that you want to roll. Then you roll 2 dice, and whatever number you roll up, this is how much money you get. Yeah, and there are other set collection things inside of this game. It's a really fun game, and a lot of mini games in one big box. It's very cool, I think. And the last game that I want to mention today is a game I mentioned last week too. It's Alchemists, and in this game there's like a big deduction game going on. But if you think about it, this is a worker placement game. You try to plan out your day, try to mix potions, try to sell them, try to find the right ingredients, but finding those ingredients is the big deduction. Everyone has one of those really big player screens to hide your investigations on what resources, if you mix them, make what kind of potions. You have this kind of Sudoku paper here, where you can cross off certain things that you have investigated which are not the components. So you have to find the chemical ingredients to those components. They are like distributed new from the beginning of each game. So each of those ingredients has a different component set in each game. And this is, by the way, this is the player sheet from the expansion. So there are even more things that you can figure out. There's like a monster which I think his chest glows when he gets certain kinds of ingredients when he eats them, or his head smokes when he consumes different kinds of resources or ingredients. And then you, like the app, there's an app where you scan the ingredients with that you mix, and then you get just a little hint of what you actually made out of those 2 ingredients. And then you can deduce, okay, well, if I made the negative blue potion, then it cannot have a positive blue part in its potion. So you can cross out like, I think almost half of them, but this is only 1 ingredient or 2 ingredients mixed together, and you have to find out almost all of the ingredients throughout the game. And this is so much fun for me. It's really heavy, although I think a few people said that if you played it enough, it's not that hard anymore. I think it's still really hard, and I played it a ton. So yeah, Alchemists and the little deduction mini game. Although this is more like, I think this is definitely not the. Well, that's the thing. Is a mini game, if it's the heart or the soul of a game, is it still a mini game, or is it the basic part of the game? I think you can look at this from both perspectives, and it would still be a mini game, a very important one. And if you strip it out of the game, I think the game wouldn't be as fun, and maybe it wouldn't be a game anymore. But still, I think this is a big part, but still a mini game inside of the game. Very confusing sometimes, but still I think a very interesting topic. So thank you, Jamey, for coming up with it on your Sunday sit-down talk this week. And I hope to see you next week. See you soon. Bye.